All right, I'll call the meeting to order. A motion to reconvene the open meeting. Been moved and seconded. All those in favor, opposed, and carried. A motion to adopt the minutes of the open council meeting held on June the 26th, 2017. All those in favor, opposed, carried. Motion to adopt the minutes of the public hearing zoning held on June the 27th, 2017. Been moved and seconded. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor, opposed, and carried. A motion to hear the delegations. All those in favor, opposed, and carried. And the first delegation is the Burnaby Arts Council, review a proposal for a new art gallery. Speakers are David Handelman, Maria Perolin, and Michael Suk. Please come up and have a seat.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor Corrigan, members of council, and city staff. And I also would like to welcome the people in the gallery, some of whom who are here because I believe they are friends of the idea of a new gallery in Burnaby. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you tonight. I am a director of the Burnaby Arts Council along with Ms. Perolin and Mr. Suk. And as the mayor said, we're here to reply to the planning department's review of the Burnaby Arts Council proposal for a new art gallery that was provided to council in June of this year. However, we would like to thank council for its ongoing support of the Burnaby Arts Council. A recent result of that support was our highly successful Summer Arts and Crafts Fair and Paint-Off on this Saturday, where over 500 people attended during our day-long event. We'd also like to congratulate the Burnaby Art Gallery on the 50th anniversary, and we're looking forward to attending the reception at that Burnaby Art Gallery this Thursday night. Now, I'm aware that council knows about the 30-year effort and our appearances before this body and the continued participation of many of the members of the Arts Council to ask the city to build a new art gallery. And the council is certainly aware of many of the issues. But Ms. Perolin and I will speak about some key aspects of the report with which we disagree, and Mr. Suk will then propose a way forward. The report is 14 pages long, and I could take an hour to tell you why we think the report is wrong and its interpretation of city policies is incorrect. But since our time is limited, I will concentrate on three main points. First, the arts policy, which forms the core of the report, was passed in 1990. It contains statements that we agree with about the role of arts in the community, but it's a policy that's 27 years old. Burnaby has changed enormously in that time. My understanding of the available statistics is that the population has grown by about 100,000, and it continues to grow at a rapid rate. There are parts of the city, such as Metrotown, Brentwood, Edmonton, Lougheed, that are almost unrecognizable. Isn't it time to review and update the policy in light of the demographic, cultural, and commercial changes that have occurred in Burnaby during that time? Is an arts policy from 1990 still relevant, given the technological and societal changes that have occurred? Is the mandate of the gallery in 2017 the same as it was 27 years ago? We say that this policy needs a thorough review. I do note that the policy from 1990 refers to the Parks and Recreation Commission, and that this commission has been changed to the Parks, Recreation, and Culture Commission. So at least there has been some change. Even though, as I said, we think the policy needs updating, there are some aspects of the policy that have merit, and this leads to my second point. The policy says that the municipality should accord high status to the arts and consider them to be a key factor in any planning processes for future development. We say the new gallery should be part of that process. We also think that there's merit in the comment about facilities, where the policy has the goal of supporting initiatives to build or improve facilities dedicated to artistic and cultural endeavors, where the community need is identified, and to consider such need in the development or redevelopment of properties owned and operated by the municipality. Where we disagree with the report is where it says, to date, a new art gallery building has not been advanced as a broadly accepted community need, and therefore does not meet the arts policy and cannot be supported by the existing financial resources allocated for arts programming. This comment is very distressing to us. Members of the community have been lobbying for a new gallery for 30 years, and in 2015 we were told that we needed to show community support. Our response was to hold a public forum on November 3rd, 2015, and over 100 community members came out and spoke practically unanimously and passionately in favor of a new gallery. We did invite council members and school board members, but only one school board member attended, and as far as I know, he was very impressed with the community support. It's unfortunate that council members were not able to attend because they would have seen and heard how important a new gallery is to the community. It's also hard for us to know at this point what else we can do to show community support. My third comment is about the present gallery. The staff do a great job with the facility, but there is a recent development that may affect the future of the gallery. Galleries in Canada seek a designation from the federal government as either Class 1 or Class 2 galleries. This classification affects their suitability for showing certain kinds of art and traveling art shows. It also affects the ability of the Canada Revenue Agency to award tax breaks to donors of important works of art that, in the opinion of the Federal Licensing Agency, are part of the cultural heritage of Canada. We are advised that due to certain deficiencies of the Burnaby Art Gallery, it is no longer eligible for a Class 2 status due to certain structural deficiencies. Now, classification of galleries is a complex topic, and while the loss of Class 2 may not affect the current operations of the gallery, this loss of eligibility may have implications for the Burnaby Art Gallery going forward. On a personal note, I also recall attending the gallery for the opening of a retrospective show by a local artist named Hank Bull in February of this year. It was a very good show, and attendance was high, but the reception part of the show took place on the gallery outdoor balcony on a night where the temperatures were 0 degrees centigrade. As far as I understand, this reception took place outdoors because the crowd could not be accommodated indoors, and that there are certain restrictions on food and drink inside the gallery. Plastic curtains had been installed to keep out some of the chill on the outdoor balcony, but it was difficult to concentrate on the art and the speakers and the social event in that frigid area. To me, Burnaby deserves better. The last comment I want to make before passing it to Ms. Perolin is that on a personal note, I was recently in 5 cities in Europe. I was amazed at the use of public spaces and cultural facilities and how people love to gather with their friends and families on a regular basis and without any special event, to drink coffee, to play with their kids, and to enjoy being part of the community. Burnaby badly needs a public space like this, a space that is not a shopping mall. A new gallery in the right location with important shows and frequent day and night activities would be a catalyst as a gathering place on a regular basis and a source of economic development. Thank you for listening, and I pass you on to Ms. Perolin. Here.
Thank you. Thank you for giving us this opportunity. As an artist, post-secondary art instructor, and mother of 2 very active children living in Burnaby, I was asked to speak about the importance of art in our community and the benefits of a new art gallery would bring to Burnaby. My aim is to plant a few seeds that could grow into tangible ideas, making our community even more culturally engaged, intellectually stimulated, and excited about what the arts have to offer. David Boyles once said, and while 100 civilizations have prospered for centuries, without computers or windmills or even the wheel, none have survived even a few generations without art. As we all know, Burnaby is growing very quickly. I believe it is important for the city of Burnaby to keep art and culture at the forefront while developing and accommodating this growth. This is a time for innovative thinking and community engagement to create a city where all its citizens, coming from near and far, will love to live and thrive. The BC government initiated BC Creative Cultures in 2013. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this document. This 12-page document begins by saying, the creative sector in British Columbia is a vital part of our economy. Our government invests in the sector to develop culturally rich communities that foster and support sustainable jobs, economic growth, and a vibrant social fabric. It continues, youth engagement in the arts expands creativity, teaches diversity, builds community, and preserves cultural traditions. So connecting young people with the arts is central to the BC Creative Futures strategy. Our government is proud of the accomplishment of British Columbia's artists and recognize their essential role in furthering the creative capacity of young people. So on a provincial level, BC's culture, GDP, and jobs mirror those of the federal level. So those statistics also showed that the province's cultural GDP of $6.7 billion is larger than that of the agriculture, forestry, fishing, and hunting sectors combined. So as our city continues to grow, we as Burnaby residents have the ability to imagine and create a unique cultural center that can showcase the many talented individuals living in our city and can attract and keep creative and innovative individuals in our city to inspire us even further to make Burnaby a city of excellence. A new Class A gallery will be able to exhibit both local and national art, as well as first-class art from all over the world. This will have a significant and positive impact on our citizens and ultimately improve community cohesion. Further, a Class A gallery, it will serve as a cultural tourist destination in the city and over time generate more revenue for the community as a whole. The United Nations has identified the creative economy as one of the world's fastest growing sectors for income generation, job creation, and export earnings. Therefore, I ask Council to consider the impact of the creative sector when making decisions for the people who live and work in Burnaby. How vibrant do you want Burnaby to be? What is Burnaby known for? I would like it to be known for being a dynamic city with open-minded, creative individuals that have the opportunity to see first-class art locally, and also I'd like to gather outside the city's numerous hockey rinks, soccer fields, and swimming pools, where my family is often all through the week and on the weekends. So we participate a lot in what Burnaby has to offer already. Currently, if I were to compare our existing public art gallery to neighboring municipalities, I have to question the City of Burnaby's vision on how art and culture fit in its OCP, so the official community plan. North Vancouver has the Seymour Art Gallery, the Gordon Smith Gallery of Canadian Art. Sorry? My time is up. I was under the understanding that we had 5 minutes each.
Has a proposal to make.
Give them 5 more. Yes. For the people, not you.
Thank you.
We want to hear him speak. We want to hear 5 more minutes.
Yes, we do.
5 minutes more. The audience wants to hear them speak.
Whoever set that law, 10 minutes to be shot. All right, 10 minutes for delegation. I have something interesting. I'm interested in what to say. Sorry, folks.
Let's go then.
couldn't make it last time, but I got here tonight. I wish some of you people would stay, because I need your support too. So where will I get, wait, just 10 minutes. Okay, Bill, get over here. The same Vic Blankard, who many, many moons ago knew a young fellow named Derek Corrigan, who I fought for under the auspices of Operation Fight Back to bring to this council. Since that time, he's gone a long way and has had many terms as mayor. So please, Mr. Mayor, respect that and don't hurry me up because I can't go fast. And I'm not going to break down. 10 minutes. I need more than 10. What you're doing to the seniors is horrific. And I can't go except I'm sorry. They'll put me in jail, do that too. My purpose for being here is in answer to all those people I run into who ask me, please get back to council. So, I finally made it. Now what my cause of complaint is this, Mr. Mayor. Somebody thinks they're very goddamn smart. They turn around and take my house in an area that's building up full of red lights. I don't know if I'm living in a red light district or what, but there's red lights all around me now. And I don't like that. And I don't like the fact because you say, my house has gone up $1 million. What the hell good is $1 million meet, people? I'm an old man. I can't take it with me. What are you trying to do, force us to sell our house? And because of that, you turned around and you upped the taxes. Now, I got the documentation here to prove it. Will I get time or not, I don't know. But I will tell you, $750 this year alone. You reversed the psychology. You took away my $700 that I had homeowners grant and taxed me. Now, you blame a lady in Victoria, I presume? You say that the Liberal Party is responsible for this? Well, good news for you, sir. The Liberal Party is out, and the NDP is coming in. My son met the Premier. He's a nice guy. I hope to meet him and have a good talk with him. Somehow or other, we got to put the clamp down on this thing and say, hey, this is no good. Now, what can you do about it? Your hands are tied. I'll tell you. Your hands are tied. But you're still the people that represent all the people of Burnaby first. Municipal comes first. Provincial comes second. And federal comes last. 3 sources of taxation on this. Okay, Mr. Mayor? Now, I know you met my son, you told him you had to pay taxes too. Sure you do. But I don't get in the December of every year, somebody come along and give me a little grant of money. You still getting that grant, Mr. Mayor? From the, because it's looked into and you need it? You need it, but I don't. I'm an old man. So I didn't make it here last time, Mr. Mayor, and I'm sorry about that. I'm not going to go into what I have here because you're not going to give me the time. And I figure that for a guy that fought for you, did I do the right thing? Now, let's go back 2 times, sir. In 1914, 1918, my grandfather, not yours, because you weren't even thought of or even born, fought a war. What they believed in one thing. They fought for their wives, their families, and their homes. Or was it not logged 1418 for their castle? That meant these guys, when they got out of the army, they come home all cut up, buggered up, or whatever. They still had a home to come to. Now, the way things are going here tax-wise, nobody's going to have a home to come to. You're going to sell the whole damn works. You're going to kick us out of our homes, take our money. Now, I told you, what you say can you do about it? If I was sitting on council, I'd fight. I'd fight you for one thing. I'd fight you to make somehow a law amongst yourself. You are the representing government body to me. I don't give a damn about federal or municipal. Municipal I care for, but not federal. You understand me, Mr. Mayor? Now, in 1945, or pardon me, 1945, I'm just a kid 15. You weren't even thought of, Mr. Mayor. You and none of you people may be here now if it wasn't for our forefathers who went and fought the war for their freedom, for their right to live free. So they did that. Now, all these guys, a lot of them now from during the Second World War, 39 to 45, are dying off. Many reasons they're dying off. I got one foot in heaven and one foot in hell. You better believe I'm not going to be down here. But these people fought for a reason. They had to go to protect their wives, their families, their sons, their daughters, and most of all, their homes. Wasn't that true? Can't you guys see it? They fought to protect their homes. And now what are you guys doing? You're saying, well, your house is now worth $2 million. What good is the money to me, Mr. Mayor? Please tell me. What good is the money to me? I don't want the money. I just want to live in my home. If I have to pay a fair tax, I'll pay it. But you've got me down here right now, and I can show you the laugh of the season. Here is your taxes on your house the last 3 years. 2 of them got increases like you wouldn't believe, because my house is now worth over $1.5 million. You got the other ones here, which came from water and sewer. Now, what are you guys trying to pull off? You're charging me water and sewer so much. Now, and then you're giving me the taxes and adding on to them. You're going overboard. You turn around and you said, okay, because of your reasoning of cutting down a service at home to take away the greens or whatever it is in one of them containers, it would not be once a week, once every 2 weeks. You cut back a lot. Did you cut back were you cut back in your pay? No. I don't like giving anybody a bad time, but as I promised those seniors out there, said, for Christ's sake, Vic, get back there. They've gone to hell. This is what other people think, Mr. Mayor. I know, because I fought for you. Not against you, I fought for you. And all I'm saying now is this. We've got to find some way of equalizing. When you turn around and take a group, the last group that was in here, I don't know if it's money they're looking for or what. You say we haven't got it? Who the hell are you kidding? Burnaby hikes taxes by 2.9%. Good for you. Good for you. Hike it way up there. City ends 2016 with $188 million surplus. What are you going to do with it? Are you going to get that raise again in December, Mr. Mayor? Tell me, you going to get that raise? You know I don't. But all I'm saying, how ridiculous it is, I got 2 bills coming to me every year. And with the total of these things here, God, I forget, I can't see without glasses anymore. Okay, this one, Mr. Mayor, the wife paid $1,179. That's 2016. 2015, $1,160. This is a dandy one here. And tax was $1,190. Okay? Don't sound like much to you, but when you're getting pension checks, our pension checks aren't going up. Maybe now that her nibs is out of there, or if your leader of the NDP party smartens up, he's going to go after it. Instead of coming and trying to make fools out of you, which I'm not, he will turn around and back and say, yes, Victor is right. We've got to do something about the taxes. You're the only ones who can do it. So my appeal to you, Mr. Mayor, I see you're gracious on your time with me. I can't complain. Is just to ask you, Don't ever allow this kind of print to come in the mail. 188 million surplus. And people come in begging for some money for a stupid, because they love pictures, photographs. They're all over the world, they got art galleries. We're famous for a lot of things, sir. Now, why couldn't you grant them 188 million and you can't grant them $5? You know, Mr. Mayor, you got a tough job, I agree. Now, I want to close this off right now at that because I have something I promised myself the last time I was supposed to be here. Couldn't make it. And I had to go home. And I had to depend on my son to bring me here tonight. I'm putting out an appeal, Mr. Mayor, not for money. I have spoken to my doctor. I said, doctor, when I go, take these two eyes and put them into somebody so they can see. If my heart's still beating, take it and give it to somebody so they can have a heartbeat. Take my lungs and take my whatever they need. I'm putting out an appeal today on television because they all know me and you all know me. To all the different people. All the old men and all the old women. When you die, you can't take it with you. So, why not donate your body to science, your living parts to those people that can see again? That way I'll never die. That's all right. I'll never die, Mr. Mayor, because my eyes will be in somebody else. So I'm asking you to reconsider. Think about it. You're the mayor. I don't know what's going to happen when the next election comes up. I told Vic Stuziak I'd get him out, and he got out. Okay? All right, can I ask you one question before I go? Yeah, but do you get a raise of pay every December? That's all I wanted to know. So you don't give a damn if the taxes go up or not. You're covered. We're not. General public knows that now, maybe. They're going to learn something. And next, thanks a lot. The one gentleman, when I didn't get up here, he phoned me home and said, you okay, you okay? He was worried about me. I think that's a gentleman. You are a gentleman, sir.
There you go. Thank you, Mr. Blanchard. Our next delegation is Earl Pollitt, Principles of Development, and there are two speakers, Earl Pollitt and Stephen Samuel.
Sick 'em. Don't give up. Good day, people. Keep playing.
All right, you have 10 minutes to make your presentation.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Councilors, for hearing us today. I start by acknowledging that the People's Metrotown Plan is written and proposed on the occupied and unceded territories of the Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh, Squamish, Kwikwetlem nations. We acknowledge that the members of the Stop Time Evictions Burnaby campaign and you, Mayor, and the members of Burnaby's Council yourselves are uninvited guests on the unceded Indigenous lands. I further acknowledge that in the tradition of those nations that still hold title to these lands, we do not own the land. We simply hold it in trust for the real owners, our future generations, our grandchildren, and their grandchildren into the future. Secondly, I would describe the intersection between government and people and profit. Many people mistakenly claim that profit is an indication of benefit to society. That's not necessarily true. We need only look as far as drug dealers to see those who make massive profits, but everyone would agree that they do not benefit society. Government's task is to set the regulations so that the only way that an entity can make a profit is to benefit the citizens. Unfortunately, our current political donation system puts corporations' fingers deep into the regulation process, and the tail now wags the dog. We're asking you to resist being wagged. The People's Metrotown Plan promotes the development of the historic Metrotown neighborhood into a working-class downtown. As the lowest income and highest renter concentration area in Burnaby, Metrotown has historically been home to a diverse population of people, including Indigenous peoples, workers, newly arrived immigrants, refugees, single-parent families, and senior and youth populations. The housing and infrastructure developed in Metrotown must center the needs and the interests of those populations, Mr. Corrigan. Your Metrotown plan will effectively erase the identity of Metrotown. If your plan goes through, Metrotown will become another dull corporate retail center that looks and feels like the city of Burnaby values blind profit even at the cost of the stories, histories, and cultures of social work and its residents. The People's Metrotown Plan was developed with strong input from the community and calls on the city of Burnaby to protect renters from the harm of evictions. It focuses development principles on the needs and interests of the current residents of Metrotown and pushes for policy changes on the municipal, provincial, and federal levels that leads to the construction of more non-market housing, including housing for Indigenous people, refugees, and immigrants, and housing for single-parent families and seniors. These cultural and daily life mechanisms are important. They come second to housing security because if gentrification and displacement don't stop, we'll be planning investment vehicles that may or may not include people. Our People's Metrotown Plan begins with recommendations to government with 3 principles for development, the first of which we'll be focusing on today. And now I turn it over to Paulette, who will be discussing the first principle, development without displacement.
Mayor Corrigan and City Councillors, thank you for hearing us this evening. Principle 1, development without displacement. Our opposition to Burnaby's planning is not opposed to new housing developments nor increased density. It is opposed to the notion that development happens only through displacement. Mayor Corrigan, your downtown Metrotown plan is through displacement. Mayor Corrigan, your downtown Metro plan is development through mass displacement. In the fall of 2016, you claimed there is no other way that Metro Vancouver municipalities must make space for more people who are arriving every year. The People's Plan alternative is to plan the increased density intentionally to place existing residents in new buildings before demolishing and replacing the existing homes. A 3-stage plan for Metrotown. The City of Burnaby's downtown Metrotown plan did not plan what will happen to current residents and for replacement housing for the low end of market rentals that will be destroyed. Instead, you plan mass evictions. It requires relaxing restrictions on market forces and releasing limits on heights and density. Your repeal of market controls opens the floodgates of profit-seeking development corporations and devalues the old 3-story buildings with a stroke of a pen. Although you have attempted to frame the housing crisis as a provincial government issue, the municipal level is equal to blame for evictions and resulting homelessness. Mark, okay. There have been 739 units of affordable housing demolished since 2011 in Metrotown as a result of city-approved rezoning applications. Municipal governments have the power to regulate how land is used by developers through zoning bylaws, which are voted on by you and City Council members. Skyrocketing real estate prices in Burnaby have been facilitated by Council passing rezoning bylaws to allow the replacement of 3-story affordable units by new and expensive condo towers. Next slide. And which highlights the skyrocketing and land increases. A future that includes people who do not own property and cannot compete in hot real estate market must be planned. Next slide. The People's Plan proposes a 3-stage plan to increase residential density in Metrotown while improving the living conditions and affordability of the neighborhood for working class and lower income renter residents. Stage 1. Rezone and develop empty lots and low-density single-family houses along major roads in the southern section of the Metrotown area. This stage will focus rezoning for higher density on sites currently hosting extremely low-density single-family homes. Our plan specifically targets single-family home lots along major traffic corridors, Royal Oak, Victory, and Rumble Streets. Rezoning single-family home yields the highest ratio of increased density per lot, meaning more diversity in the built form of the neighborhood without the exclusive use of towers. Single-family homes along these traffic corridors are valued at very high prices. A government buyout would greatly compensate the owners, and they would be able to find new, similar homes in the same or other areas. For example, a 65-year-old house at 6969 Royal Oak, immediately across from the Royal Oak SkyTrain station, was assessed at $1.5 million in 2017, double its value in 2016. Houses on these lots are assessed at very low prices, ranging from around $3,000 to $12,000. Rezoning houses such as these near traffic corridors follows the Metro Vancouver Regional Growth Strategy to increase density near transit. But Burnaby's plans don't designate these sites for high-density development. Therefore, it is likely that the assessors are assuming these houses will be demolished for new single-family homes for very wealthy buyers or investors. The current owners of these houses are already being pressed out of their homes by increased property taxes and developer buyers. If the downtown Metrotown plan is implemented, Metrotown will consist of luxury condos where the low end of market apartments once stood, and luxury single-family mansions in place of those old houses. These lots that host a single house and a couple of residents can, if rezoned, be combined and redeveloped to host a townhouse or mid-rise tower that would house upwards of 100 residents. This will grow residential density by more than 4 times without taller than mid-rise buildings and without mass displacement. Mayor Corrigan and Council, your refusal to consider these homes as sites for increased density is a missed opportunity that can be the simple way out of the problem of adding density without displacing 6,000 renters. Stage 2, placement before displacement. During the second stage, residents of the 3-story walk-up apartments in the Metrotown area are prioritized for tenancy in the new non-market townhouses and towers along Royal Oak, Rumble, and Victory. As the residents move the low end of the market buildings, the buildings will be prepared for Stage 3. Stage 3, rezone and redevelop Metrotown's 3-story apartment buildings in the 3rd stage. The old market rental stock of apartments will be individually rezoned, demolished, and redeveloped into new non-market housing. The residents will move to the new buildings developed in Stage 1, and as the new housing replaces these old buildings, any remaining residents can be rehoused into these new buildings. The 3-stage process for development without displacement will maximize density at a human scale, replacing aging and insecure market rental apartments with better quality, more affordable, and more secure non-market buildings, and make space for more working class and low-income residents, enriching Metrotown as a diverse working class downtown for Metro Vancouver. Thank you, Mayor Corrigan and City Councillors, for hearing us. The people of Metrotown thank you for exercising great wisdom in these vital matters.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate you coming tonight. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for hearing us.
All right. Council, we're moving on to the next item, which is reports. A motion to resolve into a committee of the whole to consider reports. Been moved and seconded. All those in favor, opposed, and carried. The first report is from the Planning and Development Committee, and it's in regard to the Burnaby Transportation Plan update. And there is a staff presentation in regard to this.
Oh, thank you.
No, you can have the presentation. We'll do the recommendations. Well, thank you for being here.
Thank you. Okay. Good evening. My name is Renee de St. Croix, and I work in the Planning Department. And I'm here to present the Burnaby Transportation Plan update as per the report before you this evening. So, this presentation is about 12 minutes long, and it follows generally in the pattern of the report. It covers the policy background, the context for a plan update, the transportation plan program, the public consultation framework, the draft vision, themes, and goals, and our proposed next steps. So to start, a little policy background. We have our citywide policy framework, which includes our official community plan, the Burnaby Transportation Plan, and our 3 sustainability strategies. Now, transportation is not only a plan unto itself, but it's integrated within each of these other documents. Transportation has to do with our land development, our economic development, our social activity, and our environment. So if I can take a moment, we'll go right into the 1995 plan. I'd like to share the existing vision along with a number of the achievements. So the existing vision states that the City of Burnaby, in consultation with its residents and other public and private agencies, strive to facilitate the efficient movement of people and goods in Burnaby in a cost-effective manner which enhances the environment and the livability of the entire community. So under this vision, we had a large number of achievements, which include new sidewalks and bike lanes, such as the Central Valley Greenway, bus network enhancements, the Millennium Line and the Evergreen Extension, new street segments and intersection improvements, along with our new our public realm standards for town center streets, which tries to improve the attractiveness of our streets as well as making them better for walking and cycling. We have a number of educational initiatives, such as our annual Burnaby Bike Map. We've improved safety and efficiency through programs such as our Signal Priority Override for emergency vehicles. We've installed HOV lanes on parts of Hastings and Willington Avenue. And we have our local area service programs and neighborhood transportation plans, which serve to address localized transportation issues. So the context for our plan update is that much has changed within the city and the region since 1995. We know that a renewed plan will basically need to address a number of these key shifts as demonstrated in our report. So the first shift is accommodating growth and lifestyle shifts. So we're projected to grow by approximately 125,000 people and 60,000 jobs by the year 2041. And this will result in increased demand for our transportation services. In addition, our lifestyle choices and circumstances, such as our age, education, employment, marriage, having families, and the availability of commuting options is changing how we move within the city. People are more scheduled and have a greater variety and diversity of daily destinations. And an updated plan would better enable the city to manage the transportation system so that it accommodates this population growth along with these lifestyle shifts. The second is our economic and affordability shifts. We know that transportation and housing costs are the largest components of our household expenditures. The costs associated with travel, whether it's the cost of gas or the cost of a transit pass, or even the time required for transportation, is changing how people move within our city. Sharing transportation, whether it's the bike share programs or the car share programs, are adding to the spectrum of transportation choice. The city's economy, whether it's the movement of goods to global destinations through our city, or delivering to local businesses and residents, is changing how our transportation system is used. So an updated plan would better enable the city to adapt to these economic and affordability shifts, as well as their impacts over the long term. Our third is planning and policy shifts. So as mentioned previously, we've introduced this concept of sustainability through our 3 sustainability strategies. There has been increased emphasis related to transportation on focusing our development within our town centers and our urban villages, minimizing the impacts on public health and the environment, and supporting a sustainable economy, as well as a greater commitment to the integration of land use planning and transportation planning. So an updated plan would better enable the city to further reflect and implement the directions set by the city's sustainability framework and our other community plans and policies. And our fourth is the technology shifts. Since 1995, there has been a significant increase in the use of computers and mobile communication devices. People have access to more information, whether it's to check the bus schedule or determine the best route to work. Everyone has an app for that these days. The available transportation options have been increasing, including the advent of our electric bikes and electric cars, as well as the possibility of self-driving cars in the future. Technology has made it more feasible and convenient to work across great distances, and for some to even work from home. An updated transportation plan would better enable the city to consider how new technologies may change transportation in the future and plan for those opportunities as they may arise. It would also enable planning for future infrastructure needs and the use of available technology to enhance our existing transportation system. So with that, I'd like to get into our transportation plan update proposal. And this is the scope. It includes a renewed vision, themes, goals, policies and networks, and actions. And this would be undertaken in 3 phases. The first phase would seek to determine the vision, themes, and goals to establish an overall direction for a renewed plan. The second phase would define the main body of the plan, focusing on the detailed policies, networks, and actions. And following the approval of a plan, the third phase would be developing an implementation strategy to advance the plan. And during each one of those phases, there would be these activities, which include background research, public consultation, policy and plan development, and reporting back to committee and council. So the public consultation framework. The consultation objectives include reaching out to a broad audience, raising awareness, outlining the existing and future issues and opportunities, understanding public opinion on our key issues, building upon our existing partnerships, and building support for a new plan. So to do this, to achieve these objectives, staff are proposing what we're calling the graduated approach. And this is organized around 3 styles of communication: the process awareness, broad engagement, and targeted engagement. And this is intended to allow citizens to participate at whichever level of detail they feel most able. So the first is our process awareness. This aspect focuses on informing the broader public about our plan update. The activities are designed to provide general information about the process, the transportation system, and our vision for the future. Our tools would include the city webpage, the newspaper and digital notices, Info Burnaby, and a variety of other materials that would help to inform and spread the word. The second component is our broad public engagement. So the activities are designed to distribute information about the plan update and the transportation system, as well as invite feedback and discussion. This would include going out to public events, such as our BC Day celebrations, the Willingdon Community Fair, World Rivers Day, and many more, as well as holding other public events and meetings at civic facilities. The stakeholder groups might include the broad public, as well as neighborhood associations, transportation-related groups, and other community groups. And through this, we would hold these events and meetings and use public surveys to gather feedback and use other materials to inform and engage with our citizens. The third component is targeted engagement. And the goal here is to focus on the interactions with internal and external stakeholders. The activities are to include topic-specific discussions, exploring the issues and opportunities, considering solutions, and to garner detailed input on the development of the plan. And this would include our highly engaged members of the public, as well as other stakeholder groups like TransLink, Metro Vancouver, Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure, Burnaby Board of Trade, Fraser Health, and a variety of other transportation and community groups. And all the materials would be used to inform, engage, and fully involve our citizens and stakeholders. So for phase 1, our public consultation anticipates the outcomes to be public awareness and interest in the plan, a shared understanding of the issues and opportunities, confirmation of our draft vision, themes, and goals, and building momentum leading into phase 2. So with that, I'll get into the fun stuff, which is our draft vision, themes, and goals. So we began with this question: what if our streets were not just corridors for movement, but public space to be enjoyed by all? And this led to our vision, where in Burnaby, all travel choices are enjoyable, and the transportation system is the foundation of our thriving public spaces and our quality of life. The transportation system not only moves people and goods between destinations, but provides places for people to meet, linger, and participate in city life. It is a balanced and comprehensive system that offers accessible and safe mobility in support of a healthy, green, prosperous, and connected community. So our first theme is accessible, and this is about providing access and choice. The goals are to provide multimodal access, provide easy, reliable, flexible travel options, and to provide access and choice for all ages, abilities, socioeconomic levels, and backgrounds. Our second theme is about safe and secure mobility, and the goals are to reduce the number of deaths, injuries, and conflicts within our transportation system, to reduce the frequency and severity of crashes, to reduce personal safety and security concerns, to reduce crime and damage to property, and to promote safe and respectful behavior from all users of our system. The third is our healthy theme. This is about active people in healthy, livable communities. And the goals are to increase the mode split for active transportation modes, which includes walking, cycling, and public transit, to increase the enjoyment of moving within our city, and to increase the social opportunities for people to interact with each other and their community. Our fourth theme is a green theme, a protected and enhanced environment. So the goals are to increase the use of more sustainable modes, increase the biodiversity and natural systems within our street infrastructure, reduce the environmental impacts of our transportation system, and reduce the distances driven overall. Our fifth theme is prosperous, which is a thriving, sustainable economy. And the goals are to increase the convenience, cost effectiveness, and reliability of our transportation system, to increase the modal options for goods movement and commercial services, to improve operations and functions, to make investments in multimodal accessibility, and to increase the efficiency of our finite road space. And our last theme is about a connected community. So this is about integrated and well-designed places. The goals are to increase the integration of land use and transportation, increase north-south connectivity, reduce through traffic impacts, provide integrated transportation networks, provide well-designed and high-quality streets and public realm, and to provide a balanced system for all users. So with that, our proposed next steps, should this report be approved by Council, would be to begin production on our consultation materials, undertake the first phase of public consultation, including the public events over the course of the summer and into the fall, meetings and consultations activities with other groups, and to continue the research and analysis towards the development of a new plan. And with that, I thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Good presentation. And this is just the beginning of a process. I think all of us are going to be very interested in receiving the input of our community in regard to it. Are there any questions from the members of Council? Councillor Calandino.
Thanks very much for the presentation. Very exciting. One question that I'd like to ask is, and of course the plan is about to be developed, so all the things I'm asking may be coming into the plan.
Sure.
But one of the concerns is, are we thinking about a transportation plan which focuses on the reduction of the use of the automobile? And I know that you've said the more sustainable modes of transport, which I assume does not mean the automobile. So that's one of the things that I think we should be focusing on. And nothing that you have mentioned is the, within the city, a movement of people. And I'm assuming people more than goods, because I think that within our community we need to realize that we have to facilitate the movement of our own citizens before we accommodate others.
Yes.
And even though we live in a larger context of a regional center, I think if we can't move our own people, obviously people from other side can't move either. And I'm happy to see that you have focused on improved connectivity north-south. That's critical in our community, I think. There's a lot of it east-west, but north-south is a bit problematic. So
thank you.
Maybe you can answer the first one. We can focus on reducing the use of the automobile, even though we're going to the more and more use of electric automobiles, which reduces our GHGs, but obviously it does create congestion as well.
Yes.
Councillor Balco.
Thank you, Worship. I'll be very brief. That was a very interesting presentation. I look forward to seeing the plan develop. having spent 38 years in the transportation industry, I've got a pretty good idea of where the faults lie and where the kudos should be handed out. But you were mentioning as part of this, and we're not the only ones, I'm sure, autonomous vehicles, cars, trucks, etc., etc. I don't think I'm what do they call those that are opposed to advancements? But I always look at even today, 3 years later, with all the technology available to us, we still have a plane somewhere in the bottom of the Indian Ocean with 270 people on it that was probably autonomously flying on its own, and we haven't been able to locate that. So when I read, not just here, but in North America in particular, there is becoming a real discussion and a reliance on autonomous vehicles as being a solution to a problem that I'm not aware exists as yet. But autonomous trucks, I can foresee that turning into a disaster. And you know, a lot of these things are computer servers, satellites, GPS, and all of that. And with all the fun hackers that are out there now, I can see a lot of issues on that. So, in our plan, will there be a real stress put on this autonomous vehicle business, or what exactly are we looking at doing there?
Well, I think at this point we're looking at it from the prospect of being able to plan for these types of technologies as they arise. So it's less about putting in policy that would dictate what we would do with that particular technological advancement. Rather, it would allow us to, if it comes available, perhaps look at how we might implement such a thing. But at this point in time, the technology just isn't there yet, so we would have to wait until such time as that actually comes forward. So this plan would just dictate that we would want to look into those things as they are coming to our fruition.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor Johnson.
Thank you. Just two, I guess, questions. Number one, although it's our plan, we still have interaction with the Metro and provincial government on certain aspects of this,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
And what's the process if we have an issue, suggested line that's different than theirs?
Yeah. So we have certain mandated components of the transportation system that we can adjust.
Yeah.
We, as staff, have been working with the province and with other bodies as things have arisen in the past, and I would say that relationship would continue, and this plan would also dictate that that should continue.
Okay, that's good. Okay. I know that this is a process that's going to take, what, 18 to 24 months?
Yes, thereabouts.
Going forward. I think it's a good one. I know it's long time in the mill. It's been, I know staff's been working behind the scenes for quite a while, just putting this stage together. I think it's quite overdue, but also I think it's a great opportunity as our community changes that we can set our transportation course that's
Yes.
in line with our changing community. I would tend to agree with Councillor Volko. I don't want to give up my steering wheel. I really want to keep my car I love to drive. Leave it at that.
All right, and I have Councillor Dhaliwal.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the presentation. I just have some comments. I don't have a question, Your Worship, on this one. I think if you speaking with the public in Burnaby, most of the time this issue comes up. If you ask people, see what your concerns are, what can be addressed, it's always transportation. Mostly where the neighborhoods are either underserved through transit, no buses, or they're overrun by what they call quote-unquote rat runners, which go through all the time, morning or in the evenings. So I think, and the people in those neighborhoods are disrupted from their quality of life, They are obviously themselves sometimes find that day or night they chose a location in a single-family place somewhere where it's supposed to be a local street being used as a sort of cross cities, not cross city, going through traffic to other cities. So I believe this will give us the opportunity to address all those issues, but I'd like to see some crisp objectives in terms of really dealing with public transit, for example, is somehow the transit plan is going to address that in some ways that where people will feel that they have access to vehicles, access to transit vehicles in a way that they don't have to rely on a private auto. I think we need to also take it beyond our city to say cities from the west or the east who want to go to Vancouver have to be more relying on transit rather than having private auto go through our city. I think some of those things have to be part of our scope and initial visioning as such. What kind of communities we want? We want people to be able to go within the city from one town center to another without having to say, oh, it's going to take me 2 hours by bus. I'm not going to bother. I'll drive. So these are the things that I'm hoping that we'll address. It'll address the issues in the neighborhood where people see in the morning and evening their quality of life is disrupted because people are trying to dodge the Highway 1 and they don't want to go to low heat highway. They're going through the neighborhoods. And all those things are where we're going to need some input from the public, but we also need to set some high-level goals for the cities and for the planning to say what kind of communities we're going to have, which are crisp clear right up the front, so we can ask people to help us create a community which would then move towards transit-based, walkable, local cycling, etc., or just having to have everything furnished or met within a reasonable town center that we develop. So this not only have a immediate plan on how we move, but also the kind of communities we're going to develop in these centers where people are going to meet, people are going to have enjoy their leisure time and or get to the facilities we have. So I think I'm looking forward to probably an open input from the council as well as part of the public consultation where before we really set out the phase of what's being proposed, but be asking people to affirm at least some way of see what our vision is. So thank you very much. It's a great start. Thank you very much, Your Worship.
Great, and as I said, it's a good presentation. I think it starts from the premise of the three plans that really are the foundation of our future, the economic development strategy, the social sustainability strategy, and our environmental strategy, which have all been prepared through citizen consultation. And the transportation plan layers over all three of those because it has elements from each of them engaged, as you pointed out in your presentation. Except that this is, we talk a lot about win-win propositions. Well, this is a lose-lose proposition in the sense that nobody has been able to solve all our transportation difficulties, and you certainly can't build your way out of congestion. We know that reality. So in essence, we're not going to be able to solve that quintessential issue of how you can move your car more quickly through our community. I think a lot of what we're going to be doing is trying to ensure we have movement within our town centers that is going to allow us to be able to move easily in those areas where we have higher density. We're going to try to improve our north-south connections to make sure that in our city we have improvements in our ability to move from town center to town center. But I can tell you we're not going to solve the problem for commuters that are coming through our city who want to get through as quickly as possible to another destination. That is an unlikely outcome, from all of this. And I think a lot of the issues we're going to deal with is cooling expectations that there's a magic bullet for any of this. I think we're going to have to look at this as a strategy that's going to take a long period of time to implement, and one that is never going to satisfy everyone as we develop it. But it has to be done. And sometimes when you've got the tough ones, you have to take them on and work at finding at least ways in which you can make things a little better, or you can set a direction. And I think, we've made some bold decisions. When you think about the decision we made on the Wellington Linear Park, where we decided to not create an additional lane of traffic and instead create an option for pedestrians and cyclists and to put in the parks that are going to be part of that development, I think we've done something that is a bold change in attitude and one that emphasizes that we're prepared to look at different kinds of options. And I agree with Planning Department in saying that our streetscape should be welcoming. It should encourage people to walk and cycle. It should make them feel safe and comfortable in their own city. And those are big objectives in and of themselves. So it's going to be a large task for planning. I know they've been hesitant in taking this on given their workload, but over the next 18 months to 24 months, I think it's going to be a real challenge for all of us to get our head around the issues and to be able to bring together all the different modes of transportation in the city. And at the end of the day, to try to recognize that this could all change in the future. I mean, we're looking at options that are significantly different from anything that we've encountered in the past. And as Councillor Volko pointed out, the idea of autonomous vehicles is something that is around the corner. And I don't know how you anticipate how that's going to unfold, as we're going to have to learn as we go. Electric vehicles, another option that is coming down the pike that, we anticipated coming much slower than what it actually is doing. So I think those are going to be areas of real interest. And unlike the lowlands in the Netherlands, we don't have an easy biking option. We've got a very hilly city that's challenging for people to get around on bikes, particularly if you're older. And so we're going to have to look at the ways in which we integrate our bike system to ensure that if you live in the denser areas, you can get from place to place, but the transit serves us in moving from town center to town center. So I think this is going to be a very interesting process, and I would encourage the public and our not-for-profit agencies, businesses, to get involved with us as we go through this, because in the end, it affects everybody. And ultimately, transportation involves every person in our community in one way or another. And so it's important that you take an interest in how we formulate this plan. So you got a big challenge on your plate for you and your colleagues, but I'm sure, having seen the Planning Department, Engineering Department, and our other agencies work together in the past, that if anyone can do it, you can.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Thanks. Been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, opposed, and carried. Moving on to item 4B.
Regarding the Financial Management Committee grant applications, I would move that Council approve the grant applications recommendations as outlined in the report. And, Your Worship, this is a 50% fee waiver to success for their annual health fair.
And there's a second one, too.
Second one's denied.
Yeah. All right, you ready for the question? All those in favor, opposed, and carried. Item 4C.
Next item, Your Worship, 2017 Engineering Capital Infrastructure Bylaw Funding. I would move that Council authorize City Solicitor to bring forward a capital reserve bylaw in the amount of $1,611,962.62 inclusive of GST to finance engineering capital infrastructure improvement projects as outlined in the report. And, Your Worship, this is some capital projects, environmental rehabilitation, culverts, Boundary Road noise fence, Deer Lake paving and urban trail, Imperial Patterson left turn bays, and paving and trails along Royal Oak, Willingdon, and Penzance.
Questions called. All those in favor, opposed, and carried.
Next,
4D.
Your Worship, also from the Finance Committee regarding Property Management Capital Reserve Bylaw, I would move that Council authorize the City Solicitor to bring forward a Capital Reserve Bylaw in the amount of $531,738.32, inclusive of GST, to finance projects at Deer Lake Center as outlined in the report. Your Worship, this is some tenant improvements at the buildings across the street here, washroom renovations on the 4th and 5th floor, and also to the space held by Fraser Health Authority. And these are normal landlord improvements.
Questions called. All those in favor, opposed, and carried.
Next, Your Worship, regarding donation of surplus bicycles to Burnaby Neighbourhood House, I would move that Council approve the donation of 9 surplus bicycles with total estimated value of $225 to Burnaby Neighbourhood House as outlined in the report, and that a copy be forwarded to Burnaby Neighbourhood House. Your Worship, this is an allocation of 9 unclaimed bicycles that were confiscated by the RCMP that were a result of theft in the past. These bikes have not been claimed by the community members, and as such, staff are able to donate them to Burnaby Neighbourhood House, who can use these to empower new immigrants in some of their programs.
Questions called. All those in favor, opposed, and carried.
And next, Your Worship, gaming funds and density bonus funds. I would move that Council approve $3,214,300 in density bonus funds, and as the expenditure of $738,000 from gaming funds to fund 6 capital projects as outlined in the report. And Your Worship, these are several items regarding where are we here? Various projects around the city that are funded from gaming and density bonusing. We have funds for the Mather House deck and turret design, $20,000 for Capitol Hill community exterior door replacement, $60,000 for the Hart House restaurant. I wonder what MAU1 is. Mechanical replacement, $8,000 for Hart House restaurant, also for the mechanical, and replacement of salt storage shed at a work shed. These are all capital type projects, but are able to be funded out of density bonusing and or casino funds.
Questions called. All those in favor, opposed, and carried.
The next, Your Worship, density bonus funding request, childcare facilities on school sites. That Council approve an amount of $300,000, including GST, in the amount of $14,300 in density bonus funds to fund the development of a childcare facility on school district property as outlined in the report, and that a copy be forwarded to the Burnaby School District. Your Worship, this is resulting from the memorandum of agreement that we signed with the school district. This will allow us to establish up to 6 sites on school board property in the next couple of months. It's taken a few months to iron out some of the kinks between various organizations, but we are now proceeding with the actual planning and construction.
Councillor Calandino.
Just a comment on this, Your Worship. The amount requested is really not fully for the assessment. The amount that goes for assessment is a minor one. The majority of the funding will be kept in case we do choose a site and we have to do the design for the child care facility. The majority of the amount is for the actual design.
Yeah.
Well, you know, there's always a need for more childcare spaces, and the quicker we can move, the happier I'll be. It is certainly one of those situations in which we have gone through a lot of negotiations dealing with the provincial government, the school board, and have gotten to a situation where I think we've got sites that may very well be suitable, but it's getting to the design and implementation stage. But I know our staff is doing as much as they can to move this ahead, so I'm looking forward to that, and hopefully it won't be a lengthy process now. All right. Ready for the question? All those in favor, opposed, and carried.
The next and last item, Your Worship, is regarding traffic fine revenue sharing program. I would move the report be received for information purposes. Your Worship, this is an annual report outlining the traffic fine revenue sharing program funds that we receive from provincial government, supposedly for traffic fines levied in the city of Burnaby, although we understand that it is not directly related to the number of tickets issued in Burnaby. During 2017, up to 2017, we received a installment of $2,424,747, and are allocating it as followed towards mental health programs, public safety, road safety, youth liaison at the RCMP, fentanyl and naloxone preparation or outreach, and youth outreach. And lastly, motorcycle safety skill training for our CMP members. These are funds that are received supposedly from the traffic fine process in the city. The province issues tickets. We are supposed to be sharing in the revenue. The revenue number seems to shrink. Every year the number of tickets seems to grow. We understand that the province has several times changed their formula on how it's allocated, so it's a difficult one to try to pin down the number, but this is the number that the current Liberal government has given us. You notice on page 75 there's an outline of the amounts that have been received over the last few years. They go up and down.
It is a moving target to figure out exactly where what these amounts are, and it's difficult. Councillor Calandino?
And I noticed as well that the figure has gone down for the last 3 years, but obviously I doubt that the number of fines have gone down. It's just the allocation to us, but I understand from staff that the province has decided to add more communities to share the pot, and that's one reason why our share has diminished. But I wanted to talk about the usage of it. Council some time ago has made the decision to put back the fine amount from the provincial government back into our CMP policing usage, and the RCMP made the decision to put it into the elements that we read here in the report. But I think perhaps we should have a discussion with staff whether there is better usage of that amount of money and have a better effect out of that money.
I looked at it from the same perspective, and I think that's always a good idea for us to be reviewing how the expenditures are done. Many of the cities just put this money into general revenue, and we were one of the cities that came forward and did what the province asked us to do, which was to ensure that it was used to enhance our capacity to look after public safety and police work in our community, and we did that. And I don't think we ever got nearly the recognition we should have, given that the others had simply put it into general revenue. But I think it's important that we send this on to the province so that they're aware of what we're doing. So I think it would be, if you would like to do it, it would be appropriate to add a recommendation that we forward this to the appropriate provincial government agencies, letting them know how the traffic fine revenue has been expended.
Also move.
Right. So on the motion as well, we've got the motions on the floor. All right. On the amendment, all those in favor, opposed, carried. And on the motion as amended, all those in favor, opposed, carried. Thank you. All right. Moving on to the city manager's report. And this is the Adipuram Thiruvisha Chariot Festival. And this is approval for their parade on Wednesday, July the 26th. Question's been called. All those in favor, opposed, and carried. Item 2. This is to request the approval of additional sanitary sewer capital funding for a multi-year engineering capital infrastructure improvement project. Questions called. All those in favor, opposed, carried. Item 3. This is the building permit tabulation report for June 1st to June 30th. This is information on construction activity as reflected in the building permits that have been issued for that period. Questions called. All those in favor, opposed, and carried. Item 4 is this is to obtain council approval to award a contract for the Beta pump station replacement. So we got the funding, and 2 reports later is we're sending it out. Ready for the question? All those in favor, opposed, and carried. Item 5. All right, and this is our recitation of the retirements that we have had over the course of the last year. And the retirements of July of 2016 is that we had Ms. Doreen Drysdale retire after 41 years of service. She retired as a senior business analyst. Mr. Robert Gold he retired after 40 years of service from our engineering department, held the position of City Hall custodian. We have Mr. Rick Weir. He retired after 38 years of service. He retired as Assistant Fire Chief. Of course, we had Mr. Bob Moncure retire as the City Manager after 30 years of service, and I had the honor of presenting him with his retirement gift. Mr. Ronald Bronson, who retired after 29 years of service as a Truck Driver 3. Mr. Norman King, who retired after 28 years of service. He retired as a Fire Captain. Ms. Carolyn Zhu, she retired from the city after 14 years of service. She was with the Burnaby Detachment as a crime analyst. Mr. Mark Padula, he retired after 37 years of service, and he was a foreman in the Parks Development Branch. Mrs. Kathy Whip, she retired from employment after 20 years of service. She was our anti-graffiti coordinator. We had Mr. Gregory Carrick retire after 35 years of service. He was a truck driver Swamper 2. Mr. Carl Lackner, he retired after 30 years of service, and he retired as the chief mechanic at the Burnaby Fire Department. Ms. Kelly Lane retired after 41 years of service, held the position of Building Inspector 3. Ms. Adeltona Regala retired after 13 years of service. She held the position of Chief Librarian. Mr. John Davies retired. He held the position of Burnaby Fire Captain with 28 years of service. Mr. Grant Tessar, he retired after 42 years of service as the Superintendent of Water. Ms. Hildy Richter retired after 31 years of service, and she was a clerk typist 3 in the planning department. Mr. Ashley Springer retired after 31 years of service and held the position of UFW project coordinator. Mr. Rick Hickson retired after 30 years of service, and he held the position of fire captain. Ms. Jan Bergeron retired after 29 years of service as a clerk typist. Mr. Dale Ebner retired after 25 years of service, and he was a foreman in solid waste and recycling. Mr. Robert Lawson retired after 19 years of service as a laborer in solid waste recycling. Mr. Tim O'Connell retired after 43 years of service, and he held the position of pump station service worker. Mr. Tony Chapman retired after 39 years of service as a foreman in sewers. Mr. Bert Gilman retired after 36 years of service, and he was a Recreation Center Supervisor 1. Ms. Leslie White retired after 25 years of service from the position of Recreation Center Supervisor. Ms. Nancy Hoyles retired after 24 years of service as a manager in Recreation Services. Mr. Jeffrey Parker retired after 36 years of service, truck driver in the solid waste and recycling. Mr. Terry Davis retired after 32 years of service as a truck driver in solid waste and recycling. Mr. Yvonne Montrell retired after 32 years of service, equipment operator in roads. Mr. Rick Finley retired after 30 years of service, and he was the Assistant Chief Training Officer at the Fire Department. Mr. Doug Whitehead, he retired after 30 years of service and held the position of Fire Captain. Ms. Louise Pearson retired after 29 years of service as a Supervisor in Bylaws Services. Mr. Mark Togno retired after 28 years of service as a Burnaby Fire Department Fire Captain. Ms. Linda Miller retired after 40 years of service as a network architect in the engineering department. Ms. Jennifer Marshall retired after 37 years of service as a property use coordinator. Mr. Bill McLaughlin, retired after 29 years of service, holding a position in the engineering department as a business analyst. Mr. Tom Dufovka, retired after 27 years of service, held the position of plumbing and gas inspector. Marla Collier, retired as a clerk 2 in the engineering department after 17 years of service. Ms. Nadine Connor, retired after 36 years of service, and she was the exhibit custodian at the RCMP. Mr. Derek Mitchell, retired after 31 years of service and held the position of foreman in grounds maintenance. Mr. Dean Thomas, retired after 27 years of service, and he held the position of fire captain in our fire department. Ms. Sharon Ray, retired after 26 years of service, and she held the position of fine and performing arts programmer. Mr. Tom Gooden, retired after 18 years of service as the assistant curator in Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Services. Mr. Robert Stagg, retired after 10 years of service as a recreation clerk 2. Mr. Kalinder Chinya, retired after 36 years of service as a foreman in grounds maintenance. Ms. Denise Jorgensen, retired from employment with the city after 30 years of service, and she was, of course, the Director of Finance. Mr. Bruce Newman, retired from service with the city after 29 years, retired from the position of trades foreman, Moore Shop. Mr. Randy Blount, retired after 29 years of service, and he retired as a fire captain in the Burnaby Fire Department. Mr. Scott Campbell, retired after 28 years of service, and he was also a fire captain in the Burnaby Fire Department. Ms. Kathy Olson, retired after 26 years of service, and she held the position of the administrator at BMBS. Mr. Steve Yasinski, retired after 22 years of service, and he was a mechanic in the engineering department. Mr. Alan Hebert, retired after 16 years of service, and he too was a mechanic in the engineering department. We want to congratulate all of those who have retired and thank them for their service. I always like to go through the names of the people who retired to make sure they are acknowledged for all of the work that they've done. Some, I've had the pleasure of attending their retirement ceremonies and presenting them with a gift. Others have attended on our behalf, either as councillors or senior staff, but it is an indication of how much we value the service that our employees provide to us. And it certainly is a recognition of the fact that people stay with the city of Burnaby for a very long time. As I went through and noted that anybody who was under 20 years seemed like a rookie. It was all 30, 35, 40 years of service, which we all have to be proud of, because retention of employees is a very important part of having a good business, and we've been lucky enough to have people stick with us for a long period of time and give us the continuity and experience that they bring to the job. So a big thank you to all of those retiring employees over the last year. All right, we have a report that we tabled for the delegation to attend. I was sorry that they left before we discussed the report. I was going to ask to move it forward, but they were obviously very disappointed that we weren't going to extend more time to them, and so they didn't stay for the discussion on the report. But it is, I think, a good report, and I'd like to bring it forward at this point. So if we could have a motion to lift it from the table. All right, it's been moved and seconded, and has it been moved yet? It's been moved and seconded. All right, it is open for discussion at this point as to any of the issues that you may wish to raise in regard to the report. All right, let me comment with a couple of things about the report that I think were very important. You know, is that oftentimes when people watch on television, they catch people complaining about one aspect of the city, and sometimes it can be very difficult for them to look at it within the context of all of the things that are being done in the city to promote things, for instance, like the arts. We were last night at the Vancouver Symphony Orchestra in Deer Lake Park, and there was I would guess, and I think it was the indication, early indication, somewhere between 10 and 12,000 people who were there to attend that event. It was absolutely spectacular, as having the Vancouver Symphony Orchestra in our park and available for free to all of our residents is an accomplishment for this city. It's one that's supported by our taxpayers, and it's one that we've been doing since 1989. And the reason we do it is because we want to bring the arts to people in the city of Burnaby. The chance for families to come out and listen to beautiful symphony music in a park setting, to be able to have their kids with them, some of them dancing on the grass in the park to the music. The opportunity for people to come down and picnic and share this with their family is a very important event. And what it does is it brings that cultural experience to the people in our city. You know, oftentimes events like that aren't recognized, but they don't happen anywhere else. The only other place that has it is Whistler, has that event up on the top of the mountain as a major tourist attraction. But here in the city of Burnaby, we sponsor that event each and every year. You know, the reality is I was out opening one of the new art exhibits along the Art Walk in Beresford, and I, for one, am very proud of what we're accomplishing there in requiring major pieces of artwork to become part of that art walk in the new developments that are being constructed. Each of those pieces of art have gone through a juried process in order to ensure that we are getting the very best art available and ensuring that it's creative art, art that makes people want to stop, look at it, and think about what it means. That much of it is contemporary. It's art that certainly, I think, shows the cutting edge of where artists are going. And it will become art that is a big part of our downtown over many years. And that determination that we have to bring art to the people is part of what we do on a daily basis. You know, the mayor and cult that we have at Civic Square is a good example of a significant investment in a Canadian artist to be able to bring art into a location at our library where people have a chance to stop and look at it, and they don't have to pay $18, $20, $30 to go to a gallery to be able to see it. It's right there in their own community. Our Echo Sculpture program is unparalleled. The Echo Sculpture program is one we took on and have developed in this city that has allowed not only artists to be able to construct the infrastructure for the Echo Sculptures, but to have our own staff part of that process and showing that horticulture and art go together. And so you'll see throughout our city different locations where our Echo Sculptures, movable art, is available for people to enjoy, right down to having those Echo Sculptures at our golf courses, so that people who are going out to use our golf courses are quite stunned that this piece of art is there at the golf course. And certainly now with the new linear park, art is an integral part of what we want to accomplish. You know, the idea of making art accessible to people, ensuring that it is part of your everyday life, has been a commitment of this council and something that I'm very proud of. There are more than 100 pieces of art throughout our city that have come as a result of developments or they've come as a result of initiatives by the Council and the Parks and Recreation Commission. And it is very important for us to continue to do that, to ensure that art isn't put simply into a building where people have to go and find it, but it's part of their everyday life and it's something that they should be able to experience. We have done something that other cities haven't done in ensuring that Burnaby Village Museum, which is a place where we preserve the art of the past, like the beautiful carousel and the urban tram, pieces of art in and of themselves, where we preserve those and give people an opportunity to come and see them. And Burnaby Village Museum is taxpayer supported and it's free. It is one of the top 10 attractions in the Lower Mainland. That is something to be very proud of, and it shows that by doing things like that, we fulfill a very important role. We create a museum that is accessible to everyone. Families bring their children to that museum each and every week. And that, again, is an important aspect of what we do to be able to promote the arts within our own city and to ensure that everyone gets a chance to have that art as part of their life. I think that sometimes we forget how much is being done on a daily basis to ensure that the arts are part of what Burnaby does. Now, the Burnaby Art Gallery, which was kind of denigrated, continues to be a beautiful venue. The Sepperly Mansion has been a significant investment for us, and it continues to be a place that regularly shows art shows of artists here in Burnaby. And it also highlights young people. It gives opportunity for elementary school and high school students to be able to show their art. In fact, you see out in our foyer today the artwork of students from Burn Creek that are being presented here at City Hall to show the talent of these young artists. And we continue to look for opportunities to present that art all over the city. In fact, when we are looking at an event center, part of what we're talking about is their ability to put in presentation facilities there so that we're going to be able to utilize the draw of an event center to bring people to opportunities to view art. So I want to, put paid to the idea that somehow Burnaby ignores the arts or is not very conscious of the arts. The Shadbolt Art Center itself is considered one of the foremost art centers anywhere in the Lower Mainland. Tell me who compares in having a facility for artists like that, and certainly no facility like that in a setting as beautiful as Deer Lake Park. So the Art Gallery, the Art Center, pottery facilities, they provide us with a very special place in our community that all of us value and consider to be important. I wanted to just end my comments by saying that Vancouver has, at this point, the ambition to do a $350 million art gallery that would be 20 minutes away from us by SkyTrain. They have received $50 million from the provincial government, and the rest of the funds are being raised by a private society, the Art Gallery Society. They are going to the federal government, and they are going to private donors in order to acquire that money. Now, admittedly, they're not nearly as successful as I think they want to be, but the City of Vancouver is committed that a piece of land is available for when they attain the funding to do the art gallery. If, in fact, we had that kind of money coming into our community from the provincial and federal government and private donors, it would be easy to do what Vancouver is doing and offer up a piece of land for them to build the building on. But taking on a task like that and doing it in a way that will attract international investment is certainly best left to the center of the city where the tourism draw is. For us to expect that we can do something like that in our city is impossible. And so the reality is it would always be something less. It would always be something small. It would always be something that really couldn't draw the kind of audiences that were going to a facility like the one that is planned for Vancouver, or even the facility that presently exists at the courthouse. So I want to be very, very firm in saying to the public that we looked at this seriously. We considered it. We considered whether it could be part of our plans, whether we would be wise to try to advance a proposal like that. And after due consideration, our staff came back with what I think is an appropriate recommendation, is that it wouldn't be a high priority for the City of Burnaby, given the other options that we are looking at to try to improve the infrastructure around the city. And in the long run, I believe the best choice we can make is to try and get that event center, that multi-purpose facility that will allow us to be able to host events that we can contemplate are appropriate for our size, as opposed to having aspirations to construct a building that could very well end up a white elephant for us, something that we're unable to sustain and we're unable to look after in a proper way by having the kind of staff and background we need. You are not going to draw major exhibits in competition with an art gallery in Vancouver to Burnaby 20 minutes away by SkyTrain, and I think that reality is true for all of us. So I don't want to rain in the parade of the people out there who want to help us build an artistic community. I want them to come back to the table and talk about ways we can work together to make art part of everyone's life. It isn't just an art gallery. It isn't just receptions with white wine at 7 o'clock at night. It's about art being part of what we do every single day. And I think the city of Burnaby is doing that. I'll end by saying that some of you probably haven't seen it, but TripAdvisor named us as one of the 10 art cities of Canada. Now, that's a pretty high compliment because TripAdvisor is used by everybody. Now, who hasn't used TripAdvisor around here? You all have. And everybody goes to TripAdvisor to see what they should do when they visit a place. Well, for us to be complimented as one of the 10 art cities, it's not because we have an art gallery. We do, but it's not because we have the best art gallery in the region. It's because the city is full of art, and it's full of artistic people. And that's the important thing that I think we're promoting in the city. So I don't want anyone to walk away from this discussion saying that we're cretins, that we simply do not care about the arts. We prove it each and every day as a council. All right, Councillor Calandino.
Thank you, Your Worship. It's kind of hard to add any more to what you already said, but I will try.
Put on the list first.
You know, it's said that they left without hearing us discuss the situation, but when we talk of art, I mean, there are many forms of art. I just went through the types of art on my tablet. You know, I don't think I can count the number of different type of arts that there are, and the issue that we were confronted here by the delegations is that they were concentrated in a confined space simply for visual arts, not considering all the other forms of arts that can take place in a city. And that's too bad, because obviously, as you've already said, art can be enjoyed everywhere, not just in a confined space where probably people have to pay. And if I can impose on the clerk to put some slides that I took of my place of birth, where they actually have taken one of the major commercial streets in the city and made it an art walk like we are trying to do here in Burnaby. And you can see the number of people that walk about there in the evening, it's a little late in the day, to just enjoy the beauty of art. And these are not just any common works of art. These are works of art by very well-known artists in there. But then again, you know, art, as you said, should be taken to the people, not the people to art. And I think it is a wise move that we've made here to put art out in the open, in the streets, in the art walk, and in other, and Willingdon Linear Park, where we will have some. And you were mentioning the travel blog of Expedia.ca. Well, I did take the article, and what they concentrated on. They took a picture of the native artwork that's in front of Shot Bolt, which is out in the open, not enclosed. You know, the delegation mentioned that it is 5 art cities in Europe. Well, I visit a lot of art cities in Europe as well. I was born in the place in the country which is considered the birthplace of art. But art is suffering there too. It is in, obviously, museums and art galleries, but it is highly subsidized by the national government. And on top of that, the entry fees are exorbitant. I tried to go to the National Gallery in Florence the other day, and just for the common ticket was 20 euros, which is over $30. And to have a reserved ticket where you can enter faster rather than being in a half a kilometer line was 35 euros. So that's over $50 to just go and see. Of course, it's very classical artwork of the Italian Renaissance, and you have the great artists like Michelangelo and all the others, but it is very expensive. And even at those rates, the national government still has to subsidize the maintenance of those places and of those artworks. And that happens all over Italy. It happens all over the European countries, where they have, obviously, immense numbers of artworks in museums and in art galleries. And when when the group insists that an art gallery is a solution to promoting art, I'm not sure that I can buy that. I don't think that's the sole way of promoting art. We promote art by having art lessons at Shotboat. Promote art by having art lessons in the schools. We promote art by putting it in the streets and having people enjoy. I think having an enclosed, confined space where you can have a traveling exposition of artworks may be great for the publicity, but I think it's a hindrance to the majority of the people to be able to go and see it because you have to charge a fee that not many people can afford. And I think that in the future, maybe when the critical mass is there, Burnaby might consider having an art gallery, but at this time I feel that we just do not have the critical mass to be able to support an art gallery where you can't just keep the same paintings or drawings all the time. And you have to invite exposition of renown in order to be able to attract people and to have some sort of revenue to maintain the place. I don't think we are at that stage yet. You mentioned Vancouver, the art gallery in Vancouver, which is obviously the center of tourism for the Lower Mainland, still cannot support itself and needs high subsidies. So if we want to have an art gallery, we also have to consider the economic aspect of it, not simply the cultural and the artistic part of it. So that's my position, and we can obviously in the future come back and revisit and rediscuss it, but I don't agree with the delegation that an art gallery is easy to build and easy to maintain.
Thank you. Councillor Johnson.
Your Worship, I'm pretty similar to Councillor Calandino in my comments. I remember when I was a Perks Commissioner in the 80s and 90s, the forte of the Burnaby Art Gallery was their art loan program. They tend to specialize in loaning pieces of art to corporations and public buildings, not necessarily government buildings, but other things like some of our manufacturing companies and such for their lobbies. I don't know if that's still happening, but saying that, I think that art, as was stated, is more than just the building. The building concerns me. Building a edifice in Burnaby does concern me. Being that Surrey's got a recently new large art gallery, Vancouver's about to build their brand new one on the old bus depot site, and we're looking at a potential facility in Burnaby, and it goes way beyond the cost of constructing a building. I mean, once that building's up and running, there's air conditioning, there's storage, there's environmental services to keep the art safe and secure. There's security costs, there's heat and light, there's security, and the big one is QP staffing. Now, we in the city of Burnaby, if it's a city Burnaby facility, it would fall under our collective agreement, and QP staff would be operating that facility. Saying that, that's a substantial ongoing cost if it's not well attended. If they could guarantee there was going to be 500 people a day going through the door, then maybe it would be worth it. But when you look at some of the neighboring art galleries around the Lower Mainland, or if you go to cities like Hamilton or Ottawa and you go into some of these facilities, they're lucky if they get 10 or 15 people a day. And that's a lot of taxpayer subsidization in an environment where people don't want to be paying their property taxes. They're upset about the fact that their property taxes are going up, and they're expecting us to, yes, provide services in the community such as art, but to also, and I think a big one is to be stewards of their finances and keep the tax rate down by making sure that we do fund programs that are used by the public and not necessarily fund programs that aren't high volume attendees.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. You ready for the question? All those in favor, opposed, and carried. All right, moving on to bylaws. And reading the bylaws for this month is Councillor Wang.
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. Bylaws. For first reading, I move
Wait a minute, I have to rise and report. Forgot to. Motion to rise and report.
Second.
All those in favor, opposed, carried. Motion to adopt the report of the committee. All those in favor, opposed, carried. Now, Councillor Wang.
Thank you. For first reading, I move that bylaws number 13774, number 13775, and number 13776 be now introduced and read a first time.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor, opposed, carried.
For first, second, and third reading, I move that bylaws number 13777, number 13778, number 13779, number 13780, number 13781, number 13782, and number 13784 be now introduced and read three times.
Okay. You ready for the question? All those in favor, opposed, carried.
For second reading, I move that bylaws number 13764, number 13765, number 13766, and number 13767 be now read a second time.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, opposed, and carried.
For reconsideration and final adoption, I move that bylaws number 13493, number 13644, number 13768, and number 13773 be now reconsidered and finally adopted, signed by the mayor and clerk, and the corporate seal affixed thereto.
Second. Been moved and seconded. Ready for the question? All those in favor, opposed, and carried. All right, is there any new business? Any inquiries? Councillor McDonnell?
I just want to remind everybody on July 16th, next Sunday, is the Edmonds City Fair, and it's for the whole family. There'll be a car show. There's lots of entertainments. There's bands. We got a grant from, well, the city got a grant from 150, and they're putting on some extra stage there and entertainment. And one of the things they got there this year is the big earthquake zone where you can actually go in it, and they can simulate an earthquake up to 0.9, I guess, if you want it. But I don't know if anybody's that brave, but it's an educational piece that will be very good. Lots of static displays, lots of food, lots of entertainment on the streets. So we're looking forward to seeing everybody. And we promise good weather because the city's in charge of it.
All right. So get out there to Edmonds. That's next 16th, coming Sunday. And yeah, I know the car show's worth it in and of itself. And then there's all kinds of entertainment out there from young artists, a lot of them from Burnaby. Good. All right. A motion to adjourn is in order.
Second.
All those in favor, opposed, carried. Thank you, everyone, for being with us tonight.